Alright, I just watched the scary film Chhorii, and I like myself a film with a story to tell. Hello there, namaste. So because I'm reviewing a scary film with a husband and wife, I thought I might as well wear the right shirt for this. 8-month pregnant Sakshi and her husband, Hermat, lose their home and seek shelter in a house hidden deep in the sugarcane fields, but must save themselves from a paranormal threat. Alright, the main focus is on Sakshi because it's primarily about her being pregnant. That's like the sole focus of everything. Her husband really has nothing to do with the story. He's really just like a person that's there. The film starts off with the lead actress working as a teacher, I think, and she's on the playground and there's a girl just staring at the boys playing football. I'll use the correct terminology because only America calls it soccer. Yeah, I think they're playing football and she wants to join, and she basically encourages the boys to play with her. But her husband comes and greets her, and there are these shady people looking out their car focusing on her husband, and she notices and is like, is everything right? They go home and their driver takes them home and drops them off. She wakes up in the middle of the night. Her husband's being beat up by these thugs. And instead of calling the cops right away, instead of doing anything, she walks down the stairs. She's 8 months pregnant, so he owes some bad people a lot of money. And in my mind, immediately, I'm all right. If that was me in the situation, I'd start taking stock. What can I sell? What can I mortgage? They live in a house. They own a car. They have a personal driver. Already the list shows that they're better off than most people. You can get rid of a few of those things, you can downsize a bit, and you can pay the loan back. We don't know how much the loan is. Of course, all that is basically just to get us to the location. Their driver basically comes to them and says, I know this place where I grew up. It's a tiny little outskirt village. And immediately, I was watching this with my wife, and immediately she was creeped out because when we were on together, we went trekking out and towards the village area off because our driver took us to his personal home. She was uncomfortable out there. Just the sheer the looks you get out there in the boony area. You are judged because there's a certain aspect of how people should act, how women should be, how men should look at women. That there are certain aspects that I felt it. My wife was incredibly uncomfortable, and the husband keeps asking his wife, are you comfortable with this? Are you comfortable with this? Are you okay with this? Before you get out of the car, and they end up going there. Because as long as they were together, they're both happy, they're both comfortable. And then you find out that her husband needs to go back to the city again with their driver, because he's looking for work. He's gonna take care of this financial problem. And he disappears for the next like 40, 50 minutes of the film. And then he comes back for another 2 minutes, then disappears again for the rest of the film until the very... Yeah, he serves no purpose. It's primarily Sakshi. She's the focus. But you have the driver's wife. She starts telling stories to Sakshi, and the story is basically about a serpent that coils around a tree and starts eating the eggs of a crow that lived on the tree. And then the crow laid an egg in the sparrow's nest because the sparrow came to the tree after, and all this is kind of like telling what's going on. The driver's wife's stories were creepy. I found them uncomfortable. It was just, but for some reason, Sakshi, the first time she heard them, she smiles and happy and like, oh, that's such a sweet story. I was like, that seems like a very barbaric story. But a curse follows this family. Their son had a wife, Ronnie, who ends up not being able to bear children, so their son went off to get married again, and their next daughter couldn't bear children. Then they went off to get married again, and that next child couldn't bear children. And then she tells them, oh, and our son's in the big city now, married, and we're hoping that this time it will work. They try to build up like a suspense that like the curse that follows the family is, you know, wrong and creepy. But all I got was the vibe that, you know, this driver's wife is the evil one. Their child is the evil one. That family is the evil one. The second you start hearing that, oh, you're going to be dealing with these village people, a lot of people's minds start going to dark areas. I guess unless you're a Minecraft gamer. But yeah, the village people are creepy. Never, you always. But the driver's wife basically tells a story about how her sister-in-law was a witch, how she lured away three of her four sons and had poisoned their minds, how she killed her brother-in-law, how she took her own child and took her own life and drowned her three sons. Immediately you start hearing stories and I'm just like, all right, this is all false. This is all false. We already know what's going on here. I already know who the son is. I already know who this is. And honestly, I would be saying this is a very boring, call it out type of film. But one thing that is absolutely going for this film is the fact that it's referencing something important. So the fetocide, they were calling it, for like unborn girls, that is astronomical. That's the main thing that had it going for it. It's the fact that this is something real. This stuff actually happens. This stuff still happens. Like, there are places around the world, I'm not going to get too specific, even though my wife did have some references to locations she's aware of, but it's like there are locations around the world which are predominantly men, mainly because, well, the women were used as some kind of offering, or were seen as inferior and not allowed to go through the entire process. The whole thing is just barbaric, absolutely. And that's the one thing this film absolutely has me loving it, is the fact that there is something praiseworthy about it. It's the message that's going with it, because there are so many scenes in this film where they're creative in the fact where I felt like I was looking at Where's Waldo, where the driver's wife and Sakshi are talking, and immediately my eyes went in between them and you see something in the background. And immediately I picked up on it. Of course, my wife jumped like 2 minutes later when they started playing tense music and then you see movement. I noticed it immediately and it became like a game for me to look in the background to see how many times I can spot something. But I gotta say, I primarily like this film because it had a message. That something like that really draws me in. You could have the worst kind of cinematography. You could have the worst kind of storytelling even. You could have the worst kind of just horror, I guess. Even though this did have some, it never made me scared, but it was interesting to see where it was going and how it would go about it. Because again, the creepiest thing was the driver's wife. But the fact that there was a powerful message there is what really got me, because it things like that get me to talk after the fact, and me and my wife could speak for like hours on something like that, because things like that are just atrocious, and you're like, you never pretend to be able to solve it. It's just trying to understand, like trying to fathom what can go into someone's mind to think that that is right, that makes sense. To take the life of a child makes sense. It's just weird. But there are no quick surprises. You know who the son is. You know who the real bad guy is. You know how everyone died very quickly in the beginning, because there's this burned building and it's like, how did it get burned? You know that the evil people aren't evil people, but the village people are evil people. I did enjoy this film, mainly because of the message it had behind it. I recommend it for people because it's just stuff like this needs to get out more. Even though it's wrapped in the shell of like a cheesy horror that's like, it makes no sense in the first place. Why did the wife go downstairs without calling the cops and just checked on her husband and watched him get beat? Why didn't she come up with ideas of, oh, you know what, let's sell the house, let's sell the car, let's fire our driver? Well, there are plenty of other options. Why did she go to jump at the first chance? Oh, let's move to this village, let's hide for a while. Because in that option, you're still losing the house, you're still losing the car, you're still losing the driver. Well, technically you're going to live with the driver. If you've seen it, let me know what you think. If you haven't seen it, I think it's worth a shot. I think it's worth checking out. You might get a laugh out of it, you might be it's not for you, you might be it's way too predictable, but in the end, I like the fact that there was a message there. Thank you all for watching, talk to you next time. Toodles!
You guys got a video? So bad. crush.
为什么呢？